So let's talk objection rebuttaling. First of all, I'd like to open up this training with any objections you guys or gals are experiencing when you're face-to-face over the phone. So before I kind of get into any basic training, does anybody have anything they want to discuss? I like to custom tailor this training to you all out there. Chris, come on down.
Good morning.
Hey.
Have you ever signed anybody up and you were reluctant to hit the submit button because of the price being too high? Have you, because of a charge, put it this way, last night I signed up a lady, her payment's going to be $220 a month. She's 75 years old. I'm reluctant to go ahead with this.
Okay.
Because I feel like she can't make the payment, and she tells me, I know you said, you shouldn't count other people's money and etc. I'm trying to avoid another chargeback is really what I'm.
Good. Yeah. Good question. What makes you think that she's incapable or possibly incapable of paying it? Give me some objective facts that you learned.
Well, she's 75. She's on Social Security. It didn't sound like, and she wanted me to sign up her son, and she's going to pay for that as well, which is another $82 a month. So she's going to have to come up with 300 and change, low 300s every month, and she's on Social Security. So, I mean, I guess I can call her back and ask her more financial questions, but
Okay.
I mean, I'm not comfortable with it. It sounds great, but I'm just not comfortable with her paying $300 a month for her and her son when she's on Social Security.
Yeah, here's what I'd say to this, Chris. Chris. The bigger the policy, the more likely they're going to keep it. It's kind of it's inverted based on what you would originally think. Oh, it's easier to pay $20, $25 a month. It's also easier to let it go because it's not really that much money. But when you get over the $100 threshold, I've noticed that my persistency on that business typically is pretty good. I almost have no problems from people paying more than $100 a month. And I've had deals like this too, where, I had the luxury of being in person with them and kind of feeling them out, just like visually in the flesh. That might help. But I can think of cases where I was like, you think you could afford this? But they do, and they don't really. It's surprising how much of it actually sticks. So, I mean, what I would say to you, Chris, is you've got probably the best odds chance of keeping this thing. I mean, the reaction when you ask a client, can you afford somewhere between $150 to $200 a month? They clutch their heart. They throw an extra nitroglycerin behind their tongue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she wanted to go up to $50,000 too. And they wouldn't do it, obviously.
Right. Well, so you see what I'm saying, though. I mean, in every other instance, people are straight up. We're on fixed incomes. We don't play that game of spending too much money, and they'll tell you that because they just can't. So, and we're not pressuring the pitch that we do. We're not pressuring them, right? We're asking them a budget range of which we will back off of instantly because you're like me. I don't want chargebacks. I sure as heck don't. I'm not pushing for 200 necessarily. I'm asking for it to see if I can get it. But I'm back that sucker down as much as I can. If they don't have 100% agreement and commitment, right? So, Chris, you follow the script pretty well. You connect with them well. I know you don't pressure anybody. I mean, I feel pretty strongly that this one will stick, just based off of how I know you work. I think it'll be fine.
All right. Thank you so much.
And it's like what Bill says in the chat. I did a $392 in the same situation. She's still paying 2 years later. You just don't know, man. It's crazy. Who knows? So you are the one with the objection, not the client there. Are you sure you can afford this?
Kind of, yes.
How can we handle that? Well, there you go. So hopefully that reverse objection handling is worth the training. Does anybody have any sales objections they're running up against? Anything that you want to talk about? So if you do, think of something. Let me know. I'm going to do kind of a general training here on some objections and the most common ones we're going to hear. Now, here's the thing. My sales presentation purposely is designed to overcome most objections before the client even thinks about objecting to them. Okay. So on one hand, if you just follow my script, it's likely you won't experience that many objections. I'm not saying you won't, but if you earnestly do step by step what we outline in the script, objections about need, desire, affordability, bank drafts, the common stuff that people run into are not a problem. Likewise, if you follow the script, you're going to build a baseline of trust and rapport very early on from the outset that will overcome some of these trust issues. Okay. And that's probably the biggest issue we have in our script is overcoming the trust issues. But again, it goes back to the beginning. Did you build enough trust? Did you build enough rapport? If you don't establish that from the get-go, you're going to hear objections that sound like something else, but it's ultimately a trust issue. Again, what people say is not necessarily what they believe. We'll get to that in a minute. But again, how do we do this? Again, just as a reminder, what about how do we overcome budget? Well, we ask up front, what's your budget? Can you afford between $150 to $200 a month? And we back it down. I'll go to $10 to $20 a month. I don't care. I want a sale. I want to help people. I care about activity, not necessarily the size of the deal. It's the numbers of the deals that I care about. Need. Do I really need this? Well, we try to uncover need. I don't think we can necessarily create need. People have to come to that on their own accord if they need something or not. But many times people have a need that's not, they don't know it's there, and we uncover it. Commonly, the need is for the best coverage. They thought they had the best coverage, right? But we found and discovered that they have a 2-year waiting period policy when they could qualify for first day full coverage, right? So again, if we do the job of building need and fact finding, you're going to overcome, do I need a policy? A lot of people are kind of on the fence when they talk to you, okay? Maybe they don't know if they even need the coverage. Maybe they want to continue to be world-class procrastinators, right? And put this off again because they're 70. Why not go another 5 years? They've gone the last 70 without insurance. Why not another 5? But if you do a good job of building need, urgency, God forbid if you died tomorrow, what happens? How would your kids pay? Do you want them to pay? All that stuff. If we follow all of this stuff, okay, all of the scripting precisely, you overcome so many of these frustrating objections that many agents, because of a script they don't understand, that isn't thought through like this. That you overcome a lot of this before it's a problem. And the beauty of doing and following the script is you overcome them. If you can't overcome them because you're incapable of doing so, maybe. So some people just aren't going to buy, even if you do everything right. You at least get the end of call earlier. You don't have to go the whole pitch and exhaust your emotional energy trying to convince somebody to buy with rebuttal after rebuttal after rebuttal. You can end the call in 10 to 15 minutes, save your personal integrity by not begging them, and you can make the next call. You can increase your average presentation rate this way. You can see more people and likewise probably sell more because of it. So this is my big pitch for you to just read the script, follow it, because all of this stuff, I don't want you to have to use what we're about to go into, the objection rebuttal stuff, okay? It's there and it helps, but ultimately the best way you can handle objections is overcoming them, and that's by following the script. John, go ahead. You have a question before we get into some techniques?
Well, kind of a objection. I'm not interested all the time now. All the time. This is like, since when do I get this so much? Some lady even filled out my ad yesterday. Called her immediately. I'm not interested. You just filled it out.
Okay.
Just filled it out.
So that's a little bit different. That is more of a initiation process, the initiation of the sales call process where people say not interested. If they say not interested at the end, that's different. We look at that stuff as knee-jerk objections. And the way you've got to handle that is say, hey, no problem. All I need is a few minutes to show you how this works and explain to you what you requested. And then you got to get back in your script. Again, this isn't foolproof. Depending on what, and that's the thing, is part of the problem. Well, you know what the lead says, right?
What do you mean?
This is your lead campaign.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah, it's mine. That's you just filled. I even sent it to Chris. The same thing to him.
Yeah, I called her. I called her, and she just said, I'm not interested anymore, and just hung up the phone on me as well. So it's.
So as a side note here, I'm not of the persuasion that a lead is a lead is a lead. Some people claim you could have, it doesn't matter, any lead is equivalent and it's all up to the salesperson. There's certainly truth to that, but there is better quality leads out there. There are leads that don't say to a large extent that, because when you just requested information and someone calls you and they say they're not interested pretty quickly, and if it's especially at a large scale, then yeah, I potentially have a problem. But the other question I would ask you, John, is these are Facebook leads, right?
Yeah, it's from the Facebook ad. Yeah.
How many leads are you generating a day?
2, 3 a day.
That's your problem.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. You need to be doing like 15 a day. You see, when you have, and this is the problem with operating you're operating in the worst position possible. You have too few people to talk to. So you're hung up on like an objection that everybody's going to get. But what you want to operate in, and this is important that every single person understands this will solve a lot of your problems, is that there's strength in numbers. Okay. There is strength in a tsunami of leads. Okay. When you have too many people to talk to, when you're operating in a world of plenty versus a world of scarcity, it doesn't matter that some person doesn't care about being interested. When you've got 14 more people that day, John, that called you or that is requesting information, guess what? Odds are on your side. And every single day you accumulate more and more people to talk to. If you're going to do Facebook or any lead vendor for that matter, guys, you have got to operate and work towards that as best as possible. Otherwise, you're clutching pearls. You're overvaluing something that, you don't have the numbers in your favor to really leverage fully. Go ahead, John.
Well, I got that big list also. Those 250 names. Can't get in touch with them. Not interested as well. Straight to voicemail. So I do have numbers, but I'm having trouble right now.
Yeah. So here's your solution. I'll give you the solution here. Scale up your lead campaigns. Go from 2 to 3 leads a day to 15 to 20. No joke. I mean, if you don't want to do it immediately, go to 10. That's your next order. And if you're doing 50 leads a week versus now 10 or 15,
I got to put the ads higher, right?
You have to. Yeah.
I have it on $50 right now.
That's still too little. You have to go. Guys, I don't recruit agents if you can't full-time, if you can't spend $500 a week. For that reason, if you're doing 500, you're probably going to get more like 30 to 40 leads, which is a lot better. It's still slow. It's still low, but that's a better position to be in where you're at right now. Because that's guys, that's the nature of Facebook leads too, is they're just sitting around wasting time, playing Candy Crush, arguing pointlessly about politics, and they click on an ad because behaviorally that's what people who do. They click on ads, they click on other ads, and they just are curious, and then they go back to arguing about some crap on Facebook, and they forget, and they weren't really that interested anyway. And by the time you call them, a lot of times, they just really didn't care. It was a passing interest. I wish it could be better than that, but that's the thing. It can't be. It's just the way it is. And the way you overcome that natural issue with those leads is you have to do it in volume. Anybody who's doing Facebook full-time successfully is over 100 leads a week. Now you can work up to that, but they get up to 100 plus leads a week because that's just the way it is.
Yeah, money has been my issue, man. That's why I'm slow with everything.
Sure. I understand.
How long does it take to get up to 100 leads a week, you think?
It just depends with the ads. You got to place the ads, test them, see what works. Then you just increase your budget, your daily spend. I don't know. I'm not a Facebook guy, so I don't know the process. It's probably not terribly long, but it's going to depend on just how well it performs and how much money you feed it daily. Karen?
I had a few people object that I'm not home right now. I'm at my daughter's house, and that's after spending quite a bit of time, working with them. So, one of them, I was able to get back on the phone. The other one's not.
Mm-hmm.
So, any suggestions on that?
Where do they say that in the script?
When it comes to making a decision.
Okay. Yeah. It's a smoke screen. To me, it's a way to say no or put off making a decision, because they're not fully convinced, or there's just something there. Right. And we can transition to kind of overcoming that. But what I want you to understand, and this is critical, what I want you to understand is that people buy stuff all the time and they don't necessarily have to be home. Like, oh, I'm at my daughter's. Doesn't matter. You can do the interview now.
But they don't have the banking information. They don't have the beneficiary information, those things.
With beneficiaries, all you need is the name and the relationship. You don't need the rest of it. You don't need address.
You don't need an address.
No.
The application asks for it.
Yeah, you can just ignore it. It's not required. You just need a name and a beneficiary, a relationship.
What about the banking? I don't have my bank account.
So people actually are leaving their house without their banking information? Do you really believe that?
Some of them can't even find it when they're home.
I know, right? I mean, call up the bank. Let's three-way it. You have to at least try this stuff, because you have to pressure them in some sense to take action. Because we don't know, it could be true. And this is kind of the essence of objection rebuttaling. You can't believe what they say. What they're saying to you isn't necessarily what they really mean. It is a smoke screen is kind of the common lingo. It's something that obscures what they really think, or what their real concern is. And if they say stuff like that, it's typically a trust issue. It's typically we didn't build the urgency or desire well enough from the get-go. We didn't go far enough into the desire and need for this. And the way that I would handle this particular situation here, and personally for me, is I'd say, hey, no problem. Let's go ahead and three-way the bank in, because I'm busy. I've got a lot going on. I'm sure you're busy too, but this is really important. I don't even know if I can qualify. You may not even get a policy. You know how things change suddenly. Let's just go ahead and call and get the banking information, and then just see what they say. And if they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it.
Right.
Me personally, you have to, I wouldn't call them back. I would say, hey, look, when I hear this, most of the time, most people they're really just not interested. You then flat out tell me if this isn't right for you. So I kind of I'll pin them on them. But like, if you don't want this, you tell me right now. I don't want to waste your time. And if they say, oh, well, I do want it, then I'd say something like, okay, cool. Well, here's what you got to do. I've got all these people I got to talk to. I'm super busy. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that want this right now with all that's going on in the world. If you want this, you've got to call me back tomorrow or call me back tonight so that we can finish this. And if I don't hear from you, sorry, I'm not going to call you back. So that's, again, why do I say something like that? Because I operate in a world of plenty. I'm not holding on to the people who are going to jerk me around and for whatever reason are hung up on some issue. It's like, look, this is something you need. Let's do it. Let's get it out of the way. Let's call the bank. But if they're going to push back on that stuff, you got to just exhaust. You got to try something. And if they're going to push back and they're not going to go. They're not going to go. But I'm not going to chase them. I'm not going to chase them. Go ahead.
Usually it's Saturday afternoon and the banks are not open when I'm on calls. So that's not really an option.
They got their debit card.
Mm.
You could do Prosperity or Great Western or AIG. I'm just thinking out of the box. I don't like it either.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
but you could pivot to another form of payment. But what I
Mhm.
think you're going to find is
It's just an excuse, is what you're saying.
yeah.
Just another excuse that I have to try to work through.
But
Okay.
that's what you got to try.
All right. All right.
what you
All
gotta
right.
try.
Thank you. Okay.
Olu, go ahead.
So I'm guessing that all these carriers require you to have the banking information, because with other carriers I've worked with in the past, you can bypass that by choosing annual payments or whatever.
Yeah, we don't do. Nobody's going to pay annual. You're going to pay monthly with final expense.
Because this is an instant decision. Usually, you want to get.
It's not just that. Our clients just don't have a lot of money, so they're going to pay monthly. And typically, it's a buy now, pay later. So they're going to get approved today, but set it up for the 3rd of the month, following month.
Okay.
Chris?
I believe that it's just a window shopper, and we.
Oh shit! Sorry. Go ahead. I muted you. Unmute yourself.
That's right. I believe it's a window shopper because I've had that happen many times already, where it comes down to the account information, and then all of a sudden, they get cold feet. I think that they're just shopping around at that point. I mean, they know it. They have it. I agree with that. They just are not giving it to us, whether it be trust or they're just shopping around, and we're the first person they spoke to, maybe.
Everybody's shopping around till they're not.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm shopping around until I find what I want. You know what I mean? So there comes a point when you have an interest, but the problem is that if you make it out like they can satisfy that desire at any point, then there's no urgency. So you have to take it away from them. That's why for me, if I have somebody who's on deck, who's ready to buy, but they're getting that cold feet thing, then I'm going to use some kind of tactic. Like I said, I'm say, hey, look, first of all, I'm going to say, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You already know you need this. Everything we did in the script, we'll use and throw at him again. Your daughter needs this. You're concerned about protecting her. There's no reason to delay. The way that you solve this problem is getting qualified. God forbid if something happens to you and you don't qualify or you die. Could you imagine what would happen to your daughter? Let's go ahead and do this. Which one do you want to go with? If I still get pushed back, then I'm going to say, hey, look, here's the deal. When I hear this, it means there's something that's missing, or maybe you're just not really interested. If you want to tell me that right now, we can end this and be done. And if they say, well, no, I'm interested, I just need to think about it, then I'll say, hey, look, I'll go back and kind of do the same thing. And then if they just keep pushing, I'll be like, look, this is how it's going to work. I got so many people to talk to. Everybody I talk to that we get to this point, it believes this is something they need to do. They see it's obviously the case that they need to be protected. They need to have peace of mind. I don't need to tell you. You told me yourself you need this. Let's do it. Or, let's end it right now. I can't promise you'll ever get an opportunity like this ever again. So what's it going to be? So it might be like a final ultimatum that I would use, but I try to appeal to their better senses. The time to do it is now. Let's revisit back what they need. Let's do it. Which one do you want to go with? Dustin?
I was going to say, I was in a sales situation where that comes up and they say, I need to think about it. And you say, what do you need to think about? And then you shut up, because the first one that speaks loses. And I guarantee you, even if it goes 30 seconds, which is extremely long when you're talking to somebody, especially if you're staring at them. But if you don't say anything, they're going to blurt out something. They're either going to say, you know what, I just don't want to do it, or they're going to tell you exactly what is the big deal, what's holding them back, and you'll be able to move forward from that. But you just got to be willing to do it. I got a $6,000 one call close from doing that same technique, and it's one of the few times it's ever happened, but it works. You can't speak. You can't open your mouth again and say something because you feel that you're in this awkward moment. You just got to let them tell you, and they're going to say something. They're either going to say, I don't want to do this at all.
Yeah.
Then you move on, or they're going to tell you what the deal is, and you'll probably close the deal.
Right. Now what we've been talking about so far is a strategy to deal with the kind of the
objection
banking account stuff, right? They've decided on a program, but in the process of completing the application, they're giving you resistance on the checking account.
And they're going to give it to you. I mean, if you've got that rapport with them, because I think what people need to do is put themselves in the situation where you're on the other side, you're being sold. Think about when you go to buy something, when you know you're ready to buy, you went out today to go get mattresses, and that mattress salesman, and I'm an analyzer. I'm going to analyze that mattress and I just did it. But when I'm ready to buy, I'm going to be sold, and that's because I'm ready. And so are these people. They reached out to us. They're ready at some point. We just got to find out why. And I believe that if you just narrow that down and you get that conversation going, they're going to buy. And if they don't, they were just fishing, and we all do it until we're ready to buy. And so with a call, my guess would be is that if somebody responded to an ad and they contacted or reached out and I followed up with them, I'm going to call them out right there. It's like, well, you reached out, you have this concern, go through that script, and you're going to narrow down whether they want to buy today or is it something that they're interested down the road. And then you just move on. Maybe you can set up a follow-up call in some instances. I know you don't want to do that.
No, we never follow-up call.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Today or never, guys. Don't
exactly.
The worst thing you can do in this business, and I know, Dustin, you're coming from something else entirely. You're just getting started in this. But what we do in this business is we close them today or we never close them. And anybody that you close after the fact is a sheer act of luck. Okay. What you don't want to get into the habit of, guys, is this behavior of that callbacks are acceptable with final expense. They're absolutely not. Your clients, first of all, go into the witness protection program. They disappear. They get raptured to heaven. I don't know. They just stop picking up my phone calls. Okay. If they now know what it's about and they're not interested. Okay. Why that's the case, I don't know. If we could do callbacks and make it work, I would absolutely advocate them, but I've never really seen it work with any sort of consistency. The question you've got to ask yourself is, how can I exhaust anything and everything in that first opportunity that I can? Because it's your last opportunity. You have to think that way. You cannot think with exceptions. Now, back to the other point that Dustin made about the I'm not interested, what he did say was correct. When you present price, you show your good, better, best options, and you ask which one you want to start with today. And they say, well, let me give this some thought. Let me pray about it. Let me pray to my pet rock. Let me go do whatever, right? You acknowledge that's okay, and then ask them, what do they mean by that? Hey, that's no problem. But when you say you need to think about it, what do you mean? And then be quiet. Let them tell you what that means, okay? Because I need to think about it. What did we talk about earlier? It is an incomplete smokescreen. It's not true. It's a half truth at best, if not a half lie. Okay. It's a cover for what the real problem is. You never hear, and as in many instances in sales processes, you never hear the truth on the first thing that's said. You have to dig deeper a couple of levels, like pre-qualifying. You got to go deeper to get the real raw truth. Just like that in the rebuttal section, you got to go deeper into whatever their objection rebuttal initially was, because it's not enough. Like, I need to think about it. What does that mean? You've been thinking about it the whole time. And what does that mean? And by them answering this, you get a potentially more clear a reason why they need to think about it. And it can be a number of things. It can be, for us, if you follow the script, it's going to be just general hesitancy. It might be a trust issue. Okay. Again, the contingency here with us is if you follow our script, price should never be an objection. Okay. It was almost never an objection for me because I took care of it with the budgeting, right? It wasn't bank drafts because if they had us hang up and would not bank draft no matter what, then I was already gone after 5-10 minutes, right? So it usually for us has to deal with the trust issue because you didn't build enough rapport. You didn't go deep enough. You didn't build enough urgency, okay? Or maybe you didn't really uncover that they don't have a need for it, or the need is just, whatever. Now, maybe you can build the urgency there, or maybe you couldn't, but you went anyway. I'm trying to think of an example. You just sat down with somebody that's got a significant 401k. They feel confident. You really didn't question them on it, and you just kept selling them. And they're going to say, well, I'll think about it. They don't probably have a need. In many cases, that's been my experience. So when that's the case, that's kind of mostly what you're going to hear. You have to isolate the objection. So besides thinking that this may not be a good deal for, let's say they say, well, I don't know if I even really need this because I got all this money in the bank. Say that's what their objection is. The next step is to isolate that objection. You need to make sure that's the only hang up. Okay. Because we need to know kind of how to tactively attack whatever that objection is. So we ask, so besides, okay, so you're questioning if you even need this is what I'm hearing, right, Mr. Prospect? Yeah, right. Okay. So besides questioning the need, thinking you might be fine without it, are there any other hangups you'd have about this plan that will cause you not to move today and move forward today? And they say no. Okay. So again, make sure I'm understanding. Am I saying in response? So, okay. So it's just about this need thing. That's it. That's what you're saying. Then tactfully, thank you, Jim. And then the final statement is the ultimatum. If then, okay, if I can do this, then will you buy is the idea. So if I can show you actually why you really need this, and this is really important, then what you're telling me, you would move forward today. Is that what I'm hearing? And sometimes you'll get a yes, sure. Or maybe, okay, maybe what do you mean by maybe? So I'd go, what does that mean? Again, I want to know what the terms of engagement are before I proceed. If it's as simple as if I do this, will you buy? Great. Now I know what I need to do to overcome it. If there's a maybe that comes out of that, what do you mean by maybe? Well, it depends on some other stuff. Okay, well, there's actually more to this than just what they said, right? From that point, if they say yes, if you can show me that I need this, and then I'll buy, well, now you know what your circumstances are. You now know what you have to attack and reason and overcome to have a chance of closing them. So in that case, if it was need, well, then I would have a story ready about the guy from Alabama that had a great middle-class retirement as a retired sheriff and a pension and money set aside, who had no problems in retirement until his daughter became a meth head. And after two, what is it called when you go to rehabs? After two expensive rehabilitations, he had nothing. And the worst thing is he needed life insurance, but his health was so terrible he couldn't qualify for anything like what the client, in my mind, I'm using of could. And what's the point of sharing this with you, Mr. Prospect? Because that's why life insurance is here. I hope you don't need this plan that you want to take out. I hope you don't. I hope everything turns out in life exactly like you want. But we all know the old story, the old saying, man plans, God laughs. It's exactly why you need life insurance. And all we're talking about here is $1 a day, $2 a day. Break down the monthly premium into days, guys. So if it's $100 a day divided by 30, it's $3 a day. That's all we need from you to give you peace of mind so that, God forbid, if anything happens, you got something to back up on. So who do you want? Which one do you want to go with today? So we give our reason, we close them somehow, and we give them the proposition, why they should take it anyway. And then we always end with the closing statement. Well, by ending with the closing statement, it's just like setting an appointment. It's just like knocking on a door. You have to close, okay? Closing shows confidence in your convictions. And many people just simply buy because of the confidence that's exuded. Trying to think of an example. People who appear confident, you're a perfect example. I went on this convention conference and we flew out to Austin. I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, but when you start getting bumpy ride in the airplane, you start getting flipped out a little bit. I do a little bit, just a little bit. And I noticed I'm looking around for the flight attendant and I'm reading her body language or his body language. And most of the time when I'm like, this is terrible. I look around and I see the person and they're relaxed. They're calm. They don't have like this face of panic, So I'm looking to that person to sell me on why I shouldn't be upset or concerned, right? Now, if we're having a bumpy ride and they're flipping out, okay, I'm worried now, right? So likewise, if we think of exuding confidence And we think of how closing is a verbal way to exude confidence, because you're asking somebody to do something, or in many cases, assuming they're going to do something. You'll push people who are kind of like 51-49 over to your favor. So, in short, this whole procedure here I just explained is how we deal with, I need to think about it. And likewise, how we deal with, I need to talk to my daughter. I need to talk to my whatever, someone that ain't there. Usually it's a kid. It's the same process, okay? Now, overcoming the kid's objection, you have to go back to what they said. Hey, you know you need this. You can't wait any longer. You know how health changes in a second. And you know you need this, so why would you delay? You got plenty of time to see if you can qualify. And once you are, go have a conversation with your daughter about what exactly you have. You want to get more than this after that? Great. If you want to get less than this, we can change that too. But go to her when you know what you have, because right now I don't even know if I can qualify you. So let's just go ahead and do this. You're not on the hook financially. Got plenty of time here. You can, if you had to, I may not say this, but in the heat of the moment, I might. You got time before the first payment comes out. So it's not like you're locked in, signing a contract in blood or anything, So let's just go ahead and do this. Let's take care. You need this. Come on. So which one of these you want to start with? That's how I would deal with that objection. Any last comments, concerns, questions on objection handling? Anything you guys want to review here? The key is close with conviction. You gotta, it's about getting the true issue out on the table and doubling down on your enthusiasm and conviction. Many times we get scared, we get nervous, right? Like this is the heat of the moment, okay? This is like, oh man, I might lose this. You get nervous, okay? This is where the truth is laid bare. You have to double your enthusiasm and conviction here. Again, it's not many times what is said, it's how it's said. And if you say it in a way that sounds confident and convicted, that this is the best thing for them and that you believe it is, it's shocking. Just that people will buy based off of your conviction of how it's going to make a difference in their life. And yes, as soon as yeah. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Okay.